Hello and welcome to another episode of the Chasing Joy podcast. Today I wanted to discuss a thought that I had on the way to work this morning in the car, and I thought about how what separates the extraordinary from the ordinary is the act of commitment and execution. The execution of their ideas and doing the task rather than just sitting there and letting them go because they are stopped with fear and doubt. Ever since starting this podcast and being someone that wants to fulfill their creative interests and their dreams, I'm really trying to take a proactive approach about it. And in doing so, I've started to become very mindful about what I consume on social media, especially with who I follow and the artists that I follow as well. I may not know them personally, but I feel like their work is really cool. I also respect and admire how much work that they put into that. But I have also noticed, as much as I don't want to admit it, but I think honesty and vulnerability is something that I'm trying to incorporate in my work, is I can't help but recognize these feelings of jealousy and a little bit of envy and bitterness that this person, like, as much as I love the work that they're putting out, I also feel like that's something that I would want for myself, and it sort of hurts that I'm not at that place yet. And that's the really deceiving thing about social media. Number one, it's the instant gratification that our generation is so used to. Like, if we want something, we want it now. And we find our patience becoming even shorter than it has been. But second, you just see people's highlight reels and you don't fully see the whole process of their creations. You don't see the consistent efforts that they have put into their work over time, and you just only see the tip of the iceberg. Now, when I look at the combination of those emotions with, admiration and inspiration, but also with a little bit of feelings of bitterness and envy, rather than outwardly projecting that into maybe hate or just pure negativity, I think about how it holds a mirror to myself and what it projects about myself. Now, some questions that come up for me to ask myself when I experience those sort of emotions is, first, what parts of me am I ignoring? What parts of me are left yearning for something to be done about them or for my ideas to come to real life? And what ideas have I not given a chance to execute because I've been too scared to see what would happen if it fails? Another thing is, what is on my mind that I can't seem to let go and something that I keep coming back to? Like, when I have an idea and I think that it's good, but I'm also scared about what would happen if I act upon it, like if it's not going to be as good as I thought it originally would be, or it has just ended up being a bad idea, but I still feel like I keep thinking about it. Those are things that I need to start paying closer attention to, because if I don't nurture those ideas, then that's going to show up somewhere else. It's going to show up in a way that I don't want it to, such as bitterness, jealousy, and envy. When it comes to executing ideas, and I know how scary it can be, I know that calculated decisions are responsible and they're sensible. I understand that there needs to be some sort of planning involved and for you to be organized about this, but also there's a difference between calculated decisions and overly cautious decisions. And I think when you're too overly cautious, it becomes excessive. It sort of starts working against you. Now, before executing an idea, I always like to think about, why do I want to do it in the first place? I always question my why. I make sure that this is something that aligns with my values and if it's something that I really want for myself, rather than maybe doing it because everyone else is doing it, or I feel like I'm missing out and you're just doing it because it's trendy. Now, some tips when it comes to executing your ideas and being one of the extraordinary is, first of all, starting your idea when it's fresh and giving it a go. One thing that I like to do with my ideas, especially when it comes to what I want to talk about in my podcast episodes, is when it comes up and I feel like I have just this bundle of inspiration and that I just need to do it, I sort of ride that wave and I let it take me in the direction that it needs me to go. And I do have that imagery in my head. It's sort of like I'm riding a wave. And when it comes to ideas, I know it can be very worrisome. as a creative as well is, am I ever going to come up with an idea that's better than what I've just previously thought about? It's sort of this underlying worry as to whether these creative ideas are ever going to run out. But I did recently read how we need to treat our ideas as though it's a well, and it's something that's always going to be filled as long as you're giving it the attention that it needs to. And if you live out those ideas, that you're going to live a life where everything is abundant and it's infinite, and you don't need to worry about having such a scarcity mindset. Another tip for executing your ideas is having a plan, whilst also balancing the need to be open-minded to changes along the process and being open to constructive criticism. Now, note that I said constructive criticism rather than just pure judgment. I think when it comes to your ideas, you need to be careful with who you're sharing those with, not because you don't trust them or you feel like you need to gatekeep, but rather ideas are very precious and they're very delicate, and you need to make sure that you're nurturing them in a way where they're able to grow in a very safe environment. I sort of think about it as a plant. It needs the right environment and it needs the right nourishment to be able to flourish. Another thing about having a plan is to not get too caught up on the details. Now, this is a point that I need to constantly remind myself as someone that does like getting caught up in the details, but I know that with anything, you need to build a strong foundation first, and then you can focus on the decorations later. It's very similar to a building, right? You need to make sure that you have a very strong structure, because there's no point putting in all this decoration, like nice lighting and good wallpaper, and it's just going to fall apart when there's just a little bit of a disaster. Another tip that I have for executing your ideas is giving yourself time and grace. Now, this sort of aligns to when I said having a plan and being open to those changes. Giving yourself time and grace also means that if something is not working out for you and you feel like you need to put a little bit of more thought into it, or you just feel like now is not the right time for that idea, it's okay to pause and come back to it later rather than just abandon the whole thing. It's important to know that maybe after you've sat on it and you feel like you're ready to come back to it, it may even turn out better than what you initially expected, because you didn't rush through that stage of planning. And it sort of acts like the polishing stage as well. I know executing ideas can be really hard and it can be really scary, and there can be so much thought about, what happens if it doesn't work? What happens if I just embarrass myself and people think that I'm not capable? But I also like to think about what would happen if I put all of that mental energy and that mental worry into actually just doing the task. One saying that I really like is, imperfect progress is still progress. As long as I'm still moving forward and I'm still putting one foot in front of the other, then that's okay as well. When it comes to a marathon and running, it's not like you have to go 100% the whole way. You're conserving energy for the things that matter at this point in time. And when you put in that consistency in your efforts over an extended period, that is where the results lie. I know that when I'm running, on days where I'm struggling to do a 5K or do a 10K, and I feel like it's so hard to catch my breath, I don't think about the finish line. I think about just putting one foot in front of the other and breathing in and out, because I know that if I think about how much further I have to go, it's just going to make the present moment even harder for me to get through. So yes, consistency is important, but you just need to begin to even consider picturing yourself in the place that you want to be at. And I think that is what separates the extraordinary from the ordinary. It is the execution of their ideas and following through even when it is scary. Now, the next time that you have a good idea and you feel like this is something that you really want to see through, I hope you remember that, first of all, it's okay to be bad at something when you first start. But second, over time, while you're putting one foot in front of the other, the results will eventually show itself because you started in the first place. So yeah, that is what I thought about on the way to work this morning. All these thoughts just bundled up in my head, but that is what I wanted to discuss, and I hope you found this enjoyable. I'll catch you in the next episode. See ya. Bye.